Hey everybody, it's the garage rat here. Doing my second video. It's going to be a toolbox tour. Last one was a toolbox tour of my motorcycle trailer toolbox, Harbor Freight US General 5 draw. And then I did do a quick video of the big box here. That was my father's, and the US General over there. But this is going to be a box that I first started wrenching when I first got out of the Navy. And actually right next to it is a box that I had for the rest of my career. One is from the 40s, one is from the 60s, and this one here in the garage is from the 80s. So let's head down to the basement and I'll show you what I got. Okay, this is my first box, a little snap-on box. To the right of it's a box I had from 1963. That was my father's. He sold it to me when I got about a year into my first job wrenching, when he bought the box up in the garage. This here was my box when I first started wrenching. I had this for about a year. It was my grandfather's, because he was also a mechanic. And it's kind of special to me, but it's also vintage. This box is a Snap-on K55W. It was made from 1941 to 1946. And again, my grandfather's, and I did use this professionally for about the first year. Then I started looking into buying a newer box, and then that's when my father came up with, well, he wanted to get a new one, and I'll take his, which, as it turns out, was made in 1963, the same year I was born. So all right, let's move in and give you a little tour. Okay, Snap-on K55W. The W, I believe, stood for wrinkle, or wrinkle finish. Definitely an older box. See, it's got some wear and tear, but it served its purpose. So let's get into it. A couple of things here, not really cool. This is it's a bicycle light. I guess they also used it for mining. My grandfather had it in a box all covered with green, so I polished it up. Just thought I'd neat to put in there because it is older and it was his. So now here's a Craftsman puller. And I don't know the date code or anything on that, but it is an older one. It was in his box. It may have been something newer. I don't know. And over here we got another puller. This really has no name, no numbers, but I know he used this one. So let's get into the tools. Snap-on, 1/2 inch. You can see the date code here is a little circle with a line through it. Circle with a line through it is, I believe, a 1940. It's this symbol here. If you haven't seen this before, you can go online and Google it. Print out date codes. You can research your tools and see when they were made. I know this was my grandfather's. It's hard to see, but right here it was stenciled D-I-C-K, and his first name was Richard. So it's kind of neat to know that he used this. This was in his hand. He made his living with it. This is a Thorson. It's an older wrench, but it's not as old as one would think. I think it's a 1960s era. I mean, this design was around for many years, but I believe, and it had a spring clamp around here, which disappeared. Not the greatest design. It will get all kinds of dirt and grime in here, but it was easy to clean. Never tried to disassemble it. I don't know if you really can. I believe this was one they just kept producing even after they had the newer style. Okay, down to another tool here. It is So you can see that it says PWA 1560, and then that B is a Bonnie symbol. So this tool, PWI, is Pratt Whitney Aircraft. 1560 was the part number, and it was made by Bonnie for Pratt Whitney Aircraft. Snap-on T-wrench. This, I believe, is a 1947. Right next to where it says ferret, you can see the 7. It's kind of hard to tell. The 7s looked similar, but from what I'm seeing on the 7s, I'm thinking it was that one there, which is a 1947. Next to that is a speed wrench. Another snap-on. And again, ferret with that, let's see, right there, same style, number 7. So I'm thinking both of those are probably 1947s. Got some older sockets here. This is an older Craftsman. See some oddball sizes, oddball to today's standard, a 25-32 Craftsman. This here is a Husky, which I thought Husky was like a Harbor Freight brand, but I guess they've been around since the 20s. Let's see, what do we got here? Is this a snap-on? Nope. This one here, it is a Bonnie. I got a couple of different Bonnie tools. Well, obviously, we just looked at one. This is the second one. And then with the sockets, got another Bonnie tool. I mean, none of these are worth, I don't think are worth any major amount of money. I just think they were cool. Couple of older snap-ons. I really haven't tried to date these. Don't know if they have a date code on these, but they are snap-on. I mean, these here I did kind of clean them up and polish them up here. I think that's pretty much it for the top. So let's go down a draw for 3. Okay, the right hand side, I'll move in here. We got some measuring tools. A couple of feeler gauges. These were given to me by a friend of the family. He was a aircraft mechanic and machinist. He knew they were old, and he knew I was putting together a box full of older tools. So those were not my grandfather's or my father's, but they are some older tools, kind of neat. Feeler gauge set made by Castar, K-A-S-T-A-R. And then I got this was actually in my grandfather's workshop. This is another tool for measuring or designing, drafting, I'm not sure what. Over here we got a little pipe wrench. If you can see the name on that, Stilson. When I say little, I mean little, but I do remember my grandfather back in the day when he was looking for a pipe wrench, he would say, find me a Stilson, or get me a Stilson wrench. And much like channel locks describing those type of pliers, or vice grips describing locking pliers, it was a brand name that was one of the originals, and it stuck. Crescent pliers, they made these 50s and 60s. It was the end of the 50s when they started chrome plating them. My guess is those are probably from the 60s. Let's see, these are kind of a unique set. They're parallel pliers made by Bernard. Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to pick that up. They are made in New Haven, Connecticut, and since we're in Connecticut, I thought those are kind of interesting. This here is a pair of vice grips. Actual vice grip brand. It's got a date of, I don't know if you can be able to see it, but it's April 14th, 1942. Vice grip made in DeWitt, Nebraska. So it's got a patent date of April 14th of 1942, so it has to be later than 42. It does not have the release like the newer ones. This release right here, that came out in 1957. So which means these are somewhere between a 42 and a 1957. Okay, on to some wrenches. Over here we got Craftsman. These are my father's tappet wrenches. And obviously this goes from well, we got a Craftsman, then I got a number 1, number 2, number 3, and that's a number 4. Here, these are my grandfather's tappet wrenches. Blue Point or Blue Point Supreme. Tappet wrenches, for those that don't know, were for adjusting valves or valve tappets. They were thin to get into areas, and you would have the same size wrench on both ends sometimes, or multiples, because they had slightly different angles. Here's a proto set, or a proto wrench, not a set. Let's see what else we got. Oh, Snap-on. Now this one does have a date code. It's right next to where it says 1/2 inch there. It looks like number 8 or a B. I'm pretty sure it's 8. It's a blocked 8. So I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna say right there 1960. And so this is probably, this was, matter of fact, I'm almost positive this was my father's. This is a Snap-on socket wrench, I believe it was called. It looks kind of like a pipe, but definitely Snap-on. I did not find a date code on here. I'm not sure where to look. But it's a half inch and a 7/16. This is a set of snap ring pliers. This says, what does it say? Waldes Truex plier number 26, but they are Snap-ons, or made for Snap-on. And again, I did not see a date code on that. These get a little more interesting. Snap-on vacuum grip. This has got, it actually does have a date code. It's got that square. So that square right there, I'm thinking this would be that one there. So 1960. That probably, I was pretty sure that was my father's, and being from the 60s. But that is a vacuum grip. And vacuum grip, I don't know if you know, it was a marketing thing where these were supposed to act as like little suction cups or create a vacuum, so your hands, when they're oily and slippery, sweaty, they wouldn't, they'd grip it. Hence vacuum grip. And here's another set of vacuum grip pliers. These do not say Snap-on. Now this wrench, this particular set of pliers at I think it's 105. I have seen those on other pliers, the same model number, 105, and they do say Snap-on. This one does not. Now, from my understanding, find my notes, vacuum grip, which is both of these, is made by a company called Forged Steel Products that started in 1920, the same year as the Snap-on wrench company. which later became Snap-on Tools in 1930 when it merged with a company called Blue Point. Forged Steel Products Company also made forged tools for Blue Point. The president of Forged Steel Products became the president also of Snap-on when the president of Snap-on died in 1931. Snap-on and the Forged Steel Products Company were very close, did a lot of business together. My understanding is they say that Snap-on actually owed Forged Steel Products quite a bit of money, so president of Forged Steel Products ended up running both of them until, let's see, 1940. 1940, Snap-on acquired the Forged Steel Products Company. Or at least this is what information I'm getting. It's from a website called Alloy Artifact. And they do show quite a bit of history. When they can, they will show actual news articles. It's quite interesting. And even some of their information contradicts each other, because they'll have a news article stating one thing and another article stating the opposite, but it was the 1920s, 1930s, so. This here, no real information on it. Kind of like a snap ring plier, spring loaded, but this here must serve a purpose. It's cast into it. All right, let's go down and draw. All right, wrench draw. Start with the front here. We actually got 3 wrenches that were Ford wrenches from, I think, the 30s. The other wrench that I have here does not have the Ford symbol on it. It has the number, and when you search that number, you will come up with some wrenches that have the Ford symbol on them. So it is a Ford wrench. It's one of the few wrenches I ended up purchasing online. I purchased 6 wrenches, that's 3. It was from a guy whose family owned a scrapyard in Hartford, and people were bringing in wrenches like that years ago, just for the weight, the metal, and the value of the metal, and he thought some of them were quite interesting, so he put a bunch aside. Still going through them, I guess. Okay, now we're on to New Britain Machine, or New Britain Wrench Company. These are kind of neat. It's kind of neat too, because it's all in cursive. And I think every one of the wrenches I have was in cursive. I have 3 of them. I know this one here I bought because you can barely read it unless you get the right angle. It does say New Britain Machine, or New Britain. My wife and I were both born at New Britain General Hospital, so yeah, New Britain Machine is also where a good part of her family and even some of my family worked together. So these were quite popular, and they're still around. I mean, they're believed that was New Britain Machine ended up getting bought out. I think it might be part of Stanley Black & Decker now, but I can't swear to it. All right, I got 3 other wrenches here. They do say Made in USA, but I do not actually see a brand name on them. But I know they were old because these were also my grandfather's box. A couple of, we used to call ignition wrenches, Meteor, Oxwall, I believe. Come over here. I got 3 more Made in USA wrenches. And these are all Billings. Billings, strap forward. Yeah, Made in USA. Not a whole lot is Made in USA anymore. Got a couple of these, but they're ironically they're metric, but they're Hazits. Not sure how old those are. And probably my favorite wrench is this Williams, the Super Wrench. Now, this wrench was in a pile of wrenches, And when I started researching some of the older wrenches and reading stories on places like Garage Journal, and somebody had come across a wrench and it had USN stamped into it. It was a property US Navy, obviously. And I thought that was kind of neat, being in the Navy. Yeah, ours were actually a lot of it stamped USN as well. I didn't take any home with me when I got discharged, but I said, oh, if I ever came across one of these used and I could purchase it, because I purchased 3 Ford wrenches, 3 New Britain. This is probably the last one I would purchase. And then going through and cleaning the tool up, I'm cleaning right here, and I don't like to go get carried away with the wire wheel, because you can take off numbers or information, but I thought that was an A. And lightly I'm going, wait a minute, that's not an A, that's an N. So I cleaned it up as best I could. And I had this the whole time, which makes it even funnier. So this is either my grandfather's or my father's. William Soup Wrench, property of the U.S. Navy. Yeah, I did 4 years, so the least I can do is get a wrench. Okay, down the bottom here, this is more older tools. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick that up, but it's a Mac. You got the MA, and then right where that indentation is, that's the C. I did some research, and Mac tools did at first have wooden handles, although I don't think that screw was factory, but it is, as far as I can tell, an actual Mac wooden handle wrench. Again, nothing valuable, but kind of interesting to me. And then right here we have a snap-on. I don't know if you can see that at all. One of the original or early versions of snap-on plastic handle. These here I have not really found a name on them yet. I believe they were called monkey plier, monkey wrench, I believe. Wooden handled. Those are my grandfather's for sure. Compression gauge, whereas the gauge says compressometer. At the rubber tip, you just shove it in, hold it against the cylinder, crank it over, and it goes up to a whopping 150 pounds. I mean, most gauges, they're designed where the center of the gauge is average. So back then, 75-80 was average compression. Maybe, I'm not sure. I think I don't know. When I was wrenching, we were looking for around 140-ish. Biggest thing we used compression gauges for at the time, especially on the V8s, is looking for a difference. If you're running 140 on 135, 142, and all of a sudden you come across one that's got 70, well, there's an issue. All right, extractors. I don't know if you'll be able to see the name. Let's see, it's the Cleveland twist drill. And I know 2 of these are actually Cleveland twist drill. This big one here has said CTD on it. This one here, I had to use a magnifying glass, but it did have a C. Actually, I can see a C right inside that little bitty triangle. Yeah, right there, that one says CTD. One of these says Craftsman, the other 2, I don't know what they were, but just thought it was kind of interesting being in that box. All original. These are just a couple glass cutting tools. I just found these on my grandfather's workbench and threw them in there because they're old. And that's it. It's kind of a neat little tribute box. So I got that one from the 40s. That was my first box for about a year. I got this one here from the 60s. And upstairs we got one from the 80s. So I don't know. We'll have to see what the next box I find is. All right, thank you for watching.